Sami Kinnison here with Angela Belford, and today we are joined by a very, very special guest, Jimmy Rock, the one
What's
and
up?
only Governor's DJ.
Hey, let's
Woo!
go. I
Let's
should
We
I should have
go.
wore my bracelets that everybody was giving me on the tour. I didn't think about it. That's
friendship bracelet exchanges at the
yeah,
Governor's
I
tour.
probably have, and I'm not exaggerating, maybe like 40 or 50 of them.
Oh my
Wow,
goodness
that's
I've
so
quite a
gracious.
few.
cool.
My
Awesome.
daughter has been like going through like every single one, but I actually have one that
Oh,
like perfectly matches this jacket. Like it's got like
oh,
the sort of
nice.
green gray and the orange and everything. And so yeah,
Nice.
I like the orange jacket. It's not the same signature one from the tour, but it still is orange signature color for you.
yeah. We could dive into that. You guys will actually be the first ones I would like open up the reason why there's a color palette going on. Yeah,
Ooh.
Nice.
I don't know if
Oh.
we're gonna dive into it an hour later, but I don't mind
Yeah.
starting to talk
Well,
about it.
Well, first, before we get into that, why don't you just take an opportunity for people who are listening who may not know who you are, may not be quite as into Sharon and the Governors. Tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Me and my story. Let's see. I'm on 2 hours of sleep right now. I haven't had coffee. I wish I was joking. This is actually all true. No, my name is Jimmy Rock. I am a DJ, American music producer, and an artist. I primarily make music for like the dance world, so house and electronic music. I do get gigs sometimes that I wouldn't say require me, but they ask me to maybe like pull away from like some of the EDM sets a little bit and play more general market music. Like the tour had just wrapped up, but there's still a little bit of hints of like some festival kind of style music in there. Um, I'm a single father. I'm 40 years old. My daughter is 14. She's in high school. She is the absolute love of my life. Um, I could literally use up this entire time of the podcast just talk about her, but she would be very embarrassed and she would tell me to delete it and that kind of story. Um,
14-year-olds, you know?
yeah, yeah, because I'll make an appreciation post like, oh, like she's growing up. She'd be like, Dad, take that off. But she's also kind of like, you have too many followers, too many people are gonna see it. I'm like, okay, like so, yeah.
Dad, you're too popular. Golly, can you just be a
And
little
I'm
less
like, I'm thinking in my
popular?
head, I'm like, not really. I don't have as many followers as I feel like I should have, but that's a different topic. That's the
Yeah.
marketing side of my brain kicking in. I'm like, you
Yep.
should be here, and I'm like right here. But
Yeah, you're like, this is totally fine to do an appreciation post. It's not even that many people.
yeah,
Oh, I totally have to jump in on the teenagers because my son, when he was like 15, 16, he dated this girl and she had her 16th birthday party. And I went and showed up and I stayed and hung out and was dancing with the girls. And we were on driving home. He goes, Mom, you're not cool, right? Like, you may be like band nerd cool, like Sammy's friends, but you're not actually cool. And I go, let me tell you, I'm not 16-year-old girl cool, but how many? And I named off like a bunch of his friends' moms. And I mean, how many of them know Kesha's song and will sing at the top of their lungs that song with them? And he was like, oh, whatever. Well, then like a year later or 2 years later, he was in this leadership program where he got toured all around with the Chamber of Commerce. And he would go up to people and be like, hello, Mayor. I think you know my mom. Oh, hello, Judge. I think you know my mom. Oh, and he's like, okay, you might be cool. you might know like everybody. Anyway, so she'll come around. She will come around
well,
eventually.
with Tessa, my daughter, I'm at that point where like her friends listen to my songs, and here's the kicker: her friends think I'm hilarious. She does not like some of my jokes. She'd be giving me the eye roll. I'd be saying stuff. They'd be cracking up. She'd be like, "It's not funny. Like, stop laughing." I'm like, okay, like,
I love it. That's hilarious.
Very validating when the friends are laughing.
yeah,
That's
oh
great.
yeah,
So Jimmy, one of the things on sort of your platforms and your bios that you have shared is that you are a Christian DJ and not just a DJ. And can you tell us more about why the distinction and how that makes you stand out or different than others?
yeah. So I mean, I was born and raised in a church. We still actively go to church. My parents, my daughter. Obviously, when I'm home, right? Like, if I'm in
It's a little
whatever part of the
tricky.
country, maybe I'll just catch it online or something like that. But my faith in Jesus has always been part of who I am. Now, for the longest time, I was just like, I'm just a DJ and I happen to be Christian, right? But I feel like that in itself it was sort of misleading because it's sort of
Oh.
like, well, if I was married, I'm married no matter where I'm at, right? Like
Mm.
that's the headline of the sentence, and so um, kind of more recently, I just kind of took upon myself to be like, like, yeah, I'm a DJ and a Christian. Like, I'm both, right? But obviously, being a Christian is more important than me being a DJ. If
Mm.
my career ends tomorrow, I'm still going to be a Christian. You know what I mean? I'm still going to have my faith in God. But also, like, in a world of like oversaturation in music in the music market, what can I do to stand out? Well, I make Christian electronic dance music, which is a niche genre, which is pretty much non-existent. I mean, I know a
I was like,
handful.
you have carved out a very tiny little niche for yourself there,
Yeah,
right?
and it's funny though because we're getting more and more people who are getting drawn to it, right? Like we're getting the people who were in the club scene or they were going to the raves and the festivals and stuff, and maybe they had an encounter with God at some point in their life, and now they're living for the Lord, but they still like the genre of music. Maybe they just
Yeah.
don't like everything that's coming along with it. So then when they start hearing like the things I'm doing or some of the other artists that I know are doing, they're kind of like, oh my gosh, what is this, right? But then the other side, you have the Christians where maybe they're a little tired of some of the mediocre, boring, slow songs that are out there. And I'm not saying that's the whole genre, right? But
It's
like
not.
there is some of that cookie cutter type stuff. And then they hear what we're doing, they're kind of like, wow, there's a lot of life, there's a lot of energy behind these songs. So it's like I'm able to kind of pull from both markets by doing that. And while, like I said, it's still very niche, most people don't realize it exists. I think once they take a listen to it, they're kind of like, okay, I'm hopping on board this train. I'm digging it. So
I like it. I feel like growing up as a teenager, I my rebellion at times was listening to Christian rap because it was rap and that was my rebellion, but it
yeah,
was, not exactly that
like
rebellious at
forget
the
you, mom.
time.
I'm listening to Lecrae. Okay, like
Exactly. Like, just
I
leave me
want to say
alone
it
with my
took you to a
Jesus
Lecrae
freak.
concert.
yeah, I'm putting on my church clothes. Like
That's right.
I would be in the opposite camp because I'm not a big rap person. So I would be like, oh, I know Lecrae loves Jesus and all, but golly, do not make me listen to this music.
yeah,
See, rebellion. This was why it was rebellion, is because you didn't like it and I did. I
Yes,
do I
they
do
now
remember one of
they
my most rebellious acts was also painting Bible verses on my wall without permission. And I was like, look at you. I painted 6 verses on my bedroom wall and
thou shalt not destroy.
anyway,
What
and
are
I
we
was
doing?
like, "Take that, mom." And it was like, "Ooh, you got me." Like, you definitely was like, "Yeah, live your rebellious life over there, painting Bible verses on your wall." Do you need me to be more mad about that? Will that be more vindicating for you? Like, "Yeah, grr, you're grounded. Go read those
I had a
verses."
bedroom growing up where back when I don't know if they're still around. Like we had like Christian like bookstores. We had one where I grew up where they also sold CDs. They had posters and stuff, but they also had like magazines and stuff. So I would go there and I would get like maybe like the free edition of magazines, or I'd get like the CCM magazine. And like all the cool artists, I would cut out their pictures, and literally like my entire bedroom was like wallpapered with like Christian artists. But then in the blanks where like there might be gaps, and because they don't always like line up, I would take like Sharpies and I would like draw stuff and like to fill in the gaps. So
I love
I had
that.
something similar.
I love that. And I feel like I don't know, Christian EDM, it's just that like graduation. If you found yourself as a teenager listening to Christian rap as rebellion, let me tell you, there is still more music genres out there that is going to not be quite so I don't know, aggressive, secular, different things. It's just going to be a little have more light to it. Not light as in brevity, but light as in the light. Anyway,
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
also you have toddlers, Sammy, and
I do
so
have toddlers.
having one of the upsides is that then it's safe for your toddlers to listen to as well. So that you're not going, oh crap, I accidentally had the explicit not turned off. you know.
Yeah, because they are definitely discovering other music right now. We're moving past Blippy and we are moving past, apparently I've been traveling this week and there's a whole new artist that I've missed out on. Danny Go is now their number one, but we're like, no, let's go Queen. Let's go some like Train. They both love Queen and Train. And I was like, I'll take it. Like I will listen to Queen and Train all day long. So I don't have to listen to one more toddler song. Like,
Yeah.
oh gosh.
No, I get it. I mean, it is kind of funny though too when you have like a 4-year-old. They're like, "Oh, you gonna take me on tonight?" You're like, "You know what you're saying?" Like,
Oh yeah. Well, and then for a little bit when we were singing Queen and he was like, "No, mommy, this is my music and you can't sing along to it." And I was like, "Okay." And so then the 2-year-old's in the back seat going, "We will rock you." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's sitting there talking about mud on his face. And I'm like, "You do get mud on your face, kid. Yeah, that is
yeah,
something you literally do all the
lyrics take
time."
on a whole new meaning for kids. You know, it's funny.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, so I am so curious because I know how I became a Sharon Says So fan, which is that my daughter, in her, leaving rebellion stage, she likes to point out that she followed Sharon before Sharon was all that cool. And she would quote her all the time to me. And so Instagram, Sharon Says So. I started following her. She's such a breath of fresh air when you need like actual news. But how did you become the official DJ of Sharon McMahon's book tour? Which also, by the way, I mean, a book tour DJ is pretty lit. Would you ever have imagined that was the thing you would get booked to
Well, I
do?
want to
Anyway,
clarify. I don't know that you would have thought it would be lit, and then it was. You would be like, "Oh, book
a book
tour,
tour.
sure." But it seems. I mean, I was only at one of the shows, and from the videos, it did get really bumping there.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think that was kind of my goal going into it. Like once I realized, like after the first show, like once I realized where everybody's head was at and like how this thing was going to work, I was like, if this is their expectation, I'm taking it up to here. Like
Yes.
I'm gonna rip these DJ sets so hard. They're gonna be backstage like, where did you find this guy? Like, you know, that was my goal. Um, but with how it got,
Achieved. Mission
yeah,
accomplished, by the way. Having been in Dallas.
yeah.
Mission accomplished.
And I've said kind of throughout the tour. I don't know. I'll just reiterate it for you guys. But I didn't actually meet Sharon until an hour before the first show. We
Oh.
had never
Whoa.
even talked, DM'd, like nothing. Like it was sound check. I had finished my sound check. She came out there to do her sound check, and we just kind of talking. You always start off like super professional, like, "Hey, I'm Jimmy. Good to meet you. What kind of songs you play?" Well, and I just kind of went down some of the list. She's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds good." And it was very like that. And then by the end of the tour, like we're hugging, we're making jokes, what I mean. It's just like it's still like it's funny how within like a month and a half you go from complete strangers to like literally like almost like family. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, that's so cool.
touring has a way of doing that where it's sort of like you become roommates. I mean, that's not really an exaggeration. The word, I mean, literally, you're spending, other than like in the actual hotel room, you're pretty much with these people the entire day. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Sharing dressing rooms, breaking bread together every day, figuring out this thing, the other. Awesome experience. But the way I got introduced to this tour, kind of tied into Christian rap things. So Lecrae and No Big Deal have a DJ. He goes by the name of Mike Helvey. He is one of their go-to DJs. He's a great friend of mine. Awesome dude. Lives in Atlanta, Georgia. Puerto Rican guy. Love him to death. He has worked with the tour director in the past on other tours, like with Dude Perfect when they did a tour. I think some
Mm.
other like shows or events they've done together. But Riley, who's the tour director, reached out to Michael, asked him to be a part of this Sharon McMahon tour, and Michael is getting ready to go out on his own tour with No Big Deal. They're doing a sold out nationwide tour at the moment, so he was unavailable to do it. He said there was only like 1 or 2 dates that he could do it. So Roddy asked him, he's like, "Hey, who do you know that would have a lot of energy and could really pull this off?" He recommended me. Riley reached out to me. We had a conversation. I kind of sent in like all my credentials. Like these are all the celebrities I have played with in world leaders and conferences and corporate events, right? And you know, the resume, you know, it gets your foot in the door, but I feel like it's your character that will walk you through the door. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Um, so we had a conversation about it. You know, we talked about pricing and expectations, etc. But even when they first presented to me, they were like, "Book tour." I was like, "Okay, like yeah, I could do this." I was thinking in my head, I was just like, I mean, I don't know if this sounds like the funnest thing in the world, but like, you know, I also, I also, by the way, I didn't know it was a theater tour until later on. I was thinking like Barnes and
Bookstores.
Noble, like yeah, like bookstores. I'm just gonna have like two like little like low powered speakers. I'm like, but then they were like, no, this is like a few thousand people every night is what you can expect. I was just like, oh, okay. So then, you know, started putting together a little bit of a set list and kind of finding out like what kind of music Sharon likes and things like that. And yeah, I mean that's probably a very long-winded answer now think about it, but that's how I got
No,
the tour.
well, but to, you know, because we invited you today to talk about how do you have a freaking awesome life, and what I love, man, that you just dropped some gold on that, which is like your resume can get you in the door, but it's your character that'll really take you through the door, and it sounds like you, I can hear some like life lessons. Number one, have a great network and be reliable so that people want to refer you. But then also when the opportunity, what is it they say that luck is 1% something and 99% preparation. I forget what the other thing is, but anyway, and so being ready when it comes, when the opportunity comes. So that's fantastic.
What
Super fun.
one of my favorite quotes is "Stay ready so you don't have to get ready," right? Because like a lot of
Ooh.
times, not opportunity comes knocking at your door. That's not the point to scramble. Like, hey, let me get this figured out. Like once opportunity knocks, like, yeah, dude, I'm ready. Like I've done this, that, the other thing. I've already got, you know, my business is set up. You can wire me this. We could do that. You know, I've already got. TSA pre-check, you know, so I can cut through the airport a little bit faster, so we're not delaying flights. I mean, just having all the ducks in a row. You know, I mean, it really helps.
I
That's
love
really
that.
cool. And I think that it sounds like you had to know what you wanted though. You started somewhere different. We talk a lot that people become an overnight success over like 10 to 20 years. And it's not the overnight success that people think it is. And so at some point you started before all of this and before knowing these people and just getting into knowing what you wanted and taking each next step and then saying yes, yeah, being ready and open for what's coming. So I think that piece as well, you didn't start out ready to answer the phone call from other key leaders in the industry. You
Yeah,
started out somewhere
this is
different.
actually my first gig. No, no, I've been doing this since 2010 full time, so going on 15 years.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
um what's your favorite part? And I do want to ask also what's your least favorite part, because I think that it's good to talk about the good and the bad, not just one or the other. But what's your favorite part about being on tour?
So that's like, what's your favorite part of the pizza, right? You're like, well, all of it together is what makes it my favorite, right? It's not just
Mm.
one ingredient. But if I have to like add extra cheese or pepperoni, you know, to the conversation, um, I would say it's just, well, first off, I'm a foodie. If you couldn't tell how my buttons don't or my jacket don't button that good, I like food. You know what I mean? And so getting to travel around and trying all the different foods in different cities, in different countries, even, um, that's phenomenal. I've always had a big heart for people, and just hearing people's story, learning about their culture, learning about their background. I know sometimes I don't always have the opportunity. Like if I'm doing meet and greet and I'm standing a lot of people, I got 15, 30 seconds to like have that
Sure.
conversation, right? But I try to always be a light in the room. I try to, I'm definitely a hugger. I know some people aren't, but you know, if they are a hugger, I'm like, hey, let's go, baby. Like, you know, just try to light up people's day. But then from the performing standpoint, it's just great to, you know, I have new music on the way to be able to like test out these songs in different markets. You know, this song might work really well in Dallas, but then it might not work in Nashville, Tennessee. You know what I mean? You just have to like learn and watch and figure that out. And just for the fact that I get to perform in front of a live audience every night and sort of like take Sharon's fan base and sort of make them mine for those few moments that I have them, it's truly wonderful.
That's really cool. And then
That's
the flip, what's the worst part or your least favorite part?
I mean, lack of sleep is definitely at the top. I
Yeah.
think there aren't too many. I really can't think of. Well, there would be two parts, right? There's the you love traveling the world, but then it's just like, well, I'm also away from home, right? So like I'm away from my daughter, I'm away from my cat. Sometimes it doesn't really hit you until like you're in the hotel room at night and you're like laying in bed. You're like, that'd be really good right now. Like a pizza, a movie with my daughter, and like my cat just laying on my stomach and just like purring and petting and just like, you know what I mean? Like that would just be like
yes.
that'd be the icing on the cake. But there was a number of nights just because of the way the scheduling was set up, where you fly into a city, you get picked up by, we call them a runner, and they take you to the hotel, or I'm sorry, they take you to the venue. You're there all day. You do like maybe load in, sound check. You go to the green room. Maybe you have some errands you have to run throughout the day. You do the show. You do VIP. You tear down. You pack up. The runner takes you to the hotel. You arrive at the hotel at like midnight, 12:30. But then at 3 a.m., you're back up because you have to meet in the lobby by 3:30, 3:40, and you have to go to the airport and fly to the next city and do it all over again. So that part can be a little taxing. But
So so being famous and being on tour sounds super glamorous right now.
well, I don't know about the famous part yet. That's not me. That's Sharon. That's not me.
Well, I mean, but like if you think about the idea of people, there's different times where people are like, oh, I really wish that I could have this thing. I always joke and say, we have a pool in our backyard, and I will say, everybody wants a pool, but they don't realize what goes into having a pool. They don't know all the work that you have to do to like get it ready and all the thing. And so I think that's the case with a lot of goals that I've achieved over the years. They're like, oh man, I would really love to do that. And I'm like, but if you knew what was involved in it, most people aren't willing to do the thing to get where they want to go. They're not willing to be uncomfortable. They're not willing to be away from their family. They're not willing to do those investment things. And I think it's fun to meet people that are like, yeah, no, I have to do all the uncomfortable things. But now I am getting to live my dream, and a dream is still, sometimes it's great and sometimes it's amazing. The favorite, it sounded like what I heard you say was, my favorite part about it is travel. My least favorite part about it is the travel, right? And that's a kind of life, which I think is also a great life lesson. So I like to ask this kind of a little bit of a weird get to know you question sometimes.
Oh, the weirder the
And
better. Let's go.
yes. So if you were to go back to 18-year-old you, what would you thank them for that has really helped you get to where you are today? What choices did they make? What things did they do? What are some of the things that have that 18-year-old you set you up for success?
I mean, the first thing I would tell 18-year-old self is don't date that girl. It's yeah, long couple years ahead of you.
You're
It's a
not giving
terrible
them
joke.
advice, you're telling them gratitude.
I'm joking. Um, I think the gratitude would be like I've always been wired this way. I've always found a creative outlet through music, through art, through fashion, through design work. Um, at 18 years old, knowing that one day I would be 40 and like, hey, like it worked. Like you bet this is your job. Like this is your life. You know what I mean? Like I think I don't know if it would have given me more validation because I feel like I have always known that this is where I was going to end up and this is what I was going to do. I've kind of always known it. My parents have always known it too, because people ask my parents, "Are you surprised, Jimmy?" They're like, "No, like he's literally." She's like, when my mom was pregnant with me, if they went to a concert or church anywhere there was live music, I was like moving around the entire time.
Wow.
Even when I was just a baby crawling or a toddler crawling throughout the house, like I was always like messing with music. I was always playing drums and stuff. So I don't know if I remember the question exactly, but if that answers it, great. If not, we can just do something else. My brain shut off there for a second.
No, totally fine. And then what follow-up question is, what will 60-year-old you be grateful to today you? What are the things you're doing today that are going to set you up for 60-year-old you?
Mm. The fact that sometimes I think it can be easy to, because even like where I'm at with my career, like I feel like I'm nowhere close to where I want to be, right? Like there's still a lot of road ahead of me. And I think, when you get in your 30s or, now I'm in my 40s, sometimes you can get that little whisper in your ear, like, hey, man, your time's done. You're too old. Like that time's passed, right? But I realize that's not really true because the top DJs in the world, in my industry, like you have like your David Guetta, your Armin van Buuren, your Tiesto, they're all in their 50s. Like maybe they're
Mhm.
late 40s, they're in their 50s, they're in their prime right now, and they're getting billions of streams on their songs. They're playing the best venues around the world, and they just never quit. So I feel like I'm in that mode now where I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do. I'm no longer just a DJ. I'm a producer and artist. I'm putting out original music. When people come see me, they're going to hear the songs that I have written or wrote, produced, or whatever, and be able to put on a great show for them.
That's
That's
really
amazing.
cool. To piggyback and jump in, there's this message that God keeps sending me the past couple of weeks that I feel resistant to, and I'm trying to like latch onto. And it's I don't have to be in a hurry.
Mm.
There's this. I don't know. I want to rush, and I want it now. I want to keep going faster. And there is this in like the timing is going to be perfect. Hang tight. Like you don't have to rush trying to solve these things, trying to get to the next step, trying to accomplish or achieve or heal or fix or whatever it is. We are not in a hurry. We're just going to take one step at a time. And I don't know, I feel resistant to it. I'm like, no, I want it now. I feel like a little toddler stamping my foot, but I've been trying really to let that soak in and see how I can embrace that more. That no, I don't have to be in a hurry. I can let the
Yeah.
things happen as they happen.
Well, I
Mm.
think sometimes God does that by design, right? Because he wants us to know that it was a miracle done by his hand. For example, when the Israelites,
Yeah.
when they got up to the Red Sea, right? Had the Red Sea already been parted, they'd just been like, oh, cool, look, a path. And they wouldn't have realized the miracle God had laid before them. Instead, he waited till they got all the way out to the sea, and like literally they have their back against the wall. They're like, where are we going to go? And then God gave them the miracle, right? And I think God does that with us sometimes. You know what I mean? Like he lets us get backed up into a corner. We're kind of like, if God doesn't come through the situation, I am 100% screwed. And then the miracle happens, and we're like, I had nothing to do with it. That was all God. That was all God.
Yes,
I love
definitely
that.
that humbling, and it keeps me from my own pride of, well, I did this on my own or
Mm.
circumstances did this. Yeah, that's really, really good.
Okay, I want to tell the follow-up story, which is then when the Israelites got to the promised land, this is later in Joshua, and I feel like not a lot of people know that God parted another body of water for them. And what I love about that story is that they said, you take the Ark of the Covenant and wade into the water. And like if they touched the Ark of the Covenant, they were going to die instantly. And so the Jordan River was at flood stage, and God says, wade in, and they obeyed. And what I love is that sometimes we have to move and keep moving forward. And he did. He parted the Jordan River. They crossed over. He said, go and pick up the stones and build an altar and tell everyone that the Lord is good. And there's so much about that story that just every time gives me so much chills, because it's like I trust in God, and when he tells you to move, move. Like go and do the thing and do the thing. with so much trust. Anyway,
Even
thanks
if
for
the
letting
thing
me.
doesn't necessarily
Even it
make
doesn't make
sense, like,
sense.
take this really valuable thing and go walk it into a flood stage river. It's
Yes.
gonna work
Yeah.
out great, guys. Like, you're
Okay.
literally crazy to go do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. 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 Thank you. Sorry. Love that.
Very so I love the rabbit trail that we ended up on, but there was a point you made earlier about how music and creative expression has always been a part of your life. And then you mentioned and gave us like the little tease earlier about maybe telling us about the color scheme. Tell us more. What it sounds like that is on purpose and intentional, and would love to get more of that inside scoop on that.
Yeah. So it all ties in currently with my album that I've been working on. We're hoping to get it out in spring or early summer next year. And while I am very much a musical artist, I am also equally a visual artist. I feel like both tell different stories, but the stories can coincide with each other, right? And so the name of the album I have coming out is called Reflections. Reflections has three different meanings of why it's called Reflections. Um, there are some cover songs that I'm doing on the album. I think I did play a couple of them on the tour. Um, the NSYNC cover that I did, I know I played every night. There's a few other ones I played.
Mhm.
So the different cover songs I'm doing, I feel like they reflect different periods of my life. You know what I mean? The DeGarmo and Keys song that I play on the tour and also that's on my album, that reflects the Christian rock music I listened to in the 80s growing up as a kid, right? The NSYNC song obviously kind of reflects like my high school years, right? There's a couple other ones, and while I would love to name drop them right now, they haven't been released just yet. So I'm like, in case they don't get released for some reason, I
Yeah.
don't want to put them out there. But there's some other songs out there that they reflect different points of my life. And what I've been able to do is take all the songs, even though they're wildly different genres, and bring them into the dance, the electronic dance music world, and represent them in a way that I think is like modern and fresh, etc. So that's one reason. The second reason is the songs that are original that are going on my album. I don't sing, I don't rap. I do write songs, and sometimes I just simply maybe have a concept of a song, right? Where maybe I'll collaborate with a writer. I'll say like, "Hey, here's some ideas, go back and forth. We'll just kind of send the song." The themes throughout the album are different reflections in my life. Maybe reflecting on
Mhm.
my personal relationships, the relationship with my daughter, maybe reflecting on my love life, but also reflecting on like my doubts, my insecurities, and just all the things that come with everyday life. But then the third and final reason, I feel like the overall reason, and I tell people, I'm like, no matter what I do in this life, I want my life to be a reflection of who Jesus really is, and the way he loved people, the way he met people's. He would often meet their physical needs and desires, and then he would preach them the gospel, right? He would talk to them, and so name of my first album, Reflections, just made whole lot of sense. Well, so going kind of switching over from that to a marketing standpoint, like, well, how does Reflections look? Like, do I just have like a big old mirror? There's like two Jimmys on the front cover. Is that too cheesy? Like, how does this look? And so we started coming up with themes and concepts. And what we landed on was we have a front cover to the album. It's been done for probably a few months, maybe a year now, actually. It's been done for a while. Where we did a photo shoot. My daughter actually was my makeup artist for the photo shoot. We painted my entire face, my beard, my hair, everything silver. I kind of looked like Tin Man a little bit from Wizard of Oz, but like
Yeah.
obviously all shiny and sparkly and reflective. And we did this whole photo shoot where it's the side of my head, and and I almost looked like a chrome mannequin, if you will.
Wow.
Well, the background of it is black, and then my face is all silver. When we were looking at it, I'm like, that looks so cool, but it's also monotone. We need to have some sort of color in there just to make the whole thing pop. So we started going through colors. I landed on a very specific color, orange, and the color is safety orange, which is the same color they use for construction to be reflective so you would see them at night.
Mm,
So the black, silver, and the orange has been in all of my outfits anytime I go out and perform, do public appearances, because it ties in all the colors to the album.
I love that.
that's
That
Yeah,
is just
amazing.
like a
yeah,
little masterclass case study in branding and personal brand and the way that you can we our day jobs has been marketing for a while, and sometimes people are like, yeah, but what are the colors really matter? I'm like, what is this? And it's like, no, you really incorporate and tie it in everywhere. I love that
yeah.
intentionality. That's
Because if
really,
if
really
you go
cool.
back and like maybe I'm on Instagram or Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you listen, you'll notice all the singles I put out to the album, they all have black, silver, and orange in the artwork somewhere. Like it's
Nice.
all been like a running theme. Prior to this, I've never really owned much orange, so I've like literally had been going on my way just to shop and buy stuff just to like fit that look, because I'm like, I don't really wear orange. Like it's funny because like my taste in clothing, I'm either like all black emo everything, or I look like a bag of Skittles. Like I don't really have like I don't really have a medium. I'm either like the most vibrant, bright, loud person in the room, or like it's just like are you okay? Like that sort of thing. So
That's amazing. My little marketing brain just lit up all kinds of dopamine happiness with that story. Thank you for sharing because I think people we did we do a lot of branding work, and one time we had to do branding for a company that was going to be selling in China, a little bit opposite. We live in the home of one of the world's largest retailers, so lots of things coming from China to us, but having to do the color study for a different culture was really fascinating, and how different things translate. So I love that so much. Thank you very much for sharing that.
mhm.
What is RMG Amplify? We've seen some whispers around about this, so tell us more about that.
So RMG is it's an independent music label. It was founded by Doc Watson and I believe Derek Minor. Derek Minor was, for a brief period of time, signed with Reach Records, which is a Christian rap label that Lecrae had founded. Derek's had quite a few hits. He's done some great things. Doc Watson, he is an absolute industry goat. I mean, anyone who's in the music industry knows of Doc Watson, or they've ran into him at some point. I mean, he's an
Mhm.
incredible guy. So Doc had started this label as sort of a platform for like indie artists and whatnot to have a platform to get their music out there. And so what happened is my boy Marty from Social Club Misfits, he started a division of the label called Apollo Records, and then I made a subdivision of that called Promised Land, which is all electronic dance music. So it's like a collaboration between Promised Land, Apollo, and RMG that I have a team behind me. They help me just with some of the boring stuff. You know, I enjoy like making the songs. I don't really like the paperwork. It kind of comes with all the legal stuff, and you got to sign up for publishing. You got this and that. Da, da, da. You got to pitch to hear that, and etc. They help me stay organized. They help me get my songs out there, and I could just focus on the things that I know I'm good at.
It's amazing.
I love that. You've always got to have the people to back you up on the boring stuff. And
Because it might be boring to me, but it might be a thrill to them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right,
And I'm so happy there are people that like to do the boring stuff.
yeah.
there are
Like
people who absolutely
my
love it.
sister was a paralegal. She was always super interested in just like law, and I'm like, I cannot be sitting here like doing that all day. I'd be tapping on a desk trying to make a beat, you know, in court. Like that wouldn't work for me.
That
That's
is so funny. I, in a previous iteration of my career, found myself in the legal world, and I kept getting told, "You're so good at this. You're so good at this." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I just don't love it." Like, I get that I'm good at things, but that doesn't mean that I am going to spend all my time doing it. Ugh. Anyway, so I pivoted and ended up more in a little bit more people-y industry and not quite so paperworky. So that's really
Yeah.
cool. Jimmy, this has been a really lovely conversation, and I'm so glad that we've just got the opportunity to get to know you more and to get to know more about who you are and what you stand for.
Mhm.
If you could give advice to people listening today about how to be freaking awesome, what advice would that be?
I would say I'm gonna give two different answers. One is career based. One is character based. Career based is just don't quit. I know we heard that in assemblies in high school, right? Like, don't give up on your dreams. There's so much truth to that. You know what I mean? And when I say don't give up on your dreams, I'm saying, like, what's the big goal and what are the little goals? Like, if I say I want to build a house, well, the task might seem too monumental at first. You're like, how the heck am I going to build a house? Well, you probably start by grabbing a shovel. You just start digging out the foundation, right? And then brick by brick, building it up. And then, here you are 15 years later. Like, the house is almost done. You know what I'm saying? And even when the house is done, let's be honest, there's always more work to do in the house. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe there's a leak
Mm-hmm.
or there's something, right? I want to add some. Um, but being freaking awesome, as far as a person goes, know where your priorities lie. My priorities are my faith and my family. You know what I mean? And I understand, like, me going on tour and being away from my family is still, it kind of falls in line of me, providing for my family and still being there in a way for my daughter that, like, yeah, I might not be physically present at quite the moment, but I'm still present. The fact that, I'm making an income, I'm putting a roof over her head. Well, she's, like I said, 14 now, so now I get the phone calls, like, hello. She's like, Dad. I'm like, hi, you miss me? I'm at the mall with my friends. Can you send me like $10 in Venmo so I can go to Crumble Cookie at Starbucks? She's like, okay, like, yeah, I miss you too, like, right? But being there for her, and just putting, like I said, my faith, my family above all else. If I come home and I got a few hours home on a Sunday, and as much as I just want to hit the bed and just rest and do nothing, my faith is still important. I try to get to my church. I try to serve at my church as often as I can. I've been, when I'm able to, I serve running front of house. If you don't know what front of house means, that's the guy who's behind the soundboard making everything sound good. Because as good as the band might be, there's got to be levels. You got to have balance. Maybe throw some effects and reverb on the vocals. Um, it's not a paid gig, and I love doing it because I know where my giftings are. And as much as I could play a role on stage, because I grew up playing drums, I played a lot of instruments. When I'm at church, that's not for me to be on stage and to be seen. I'd rather play a role in the background where nobody knows what I'm doing, but, like, they still see the benefits of what I'm doing.
That's
Just
really cool.
beautiful.
I want
Yeah,
to add though, I think that another way that you're showing up for your daughter, even if it is not physically, you're being a role model to her as far as what it looks like to continue to build the house and to show up each day. And even though teenagers are not necessarily known for paying attention and looking to their parents, as a former teenager, we absolutely are still looking to our parents, even if we aren't telling them that we're looking to them. And so I think that I just want to encourage you and others out there that that is a way to show up for your kids, is to show up, show them what it looks like to show up for yourself and to keep working towards those dreams and those goals. They see that, and that is going to impact them. And then one day she's going to be chasing the goal and be like, you know what? This is just what we do. We build a house brick by brick. It's not even a crazy thing because this is just what I've known my whole life. So I think that's another way that you're also showing up for her, is teaching her what that looks like.
I
yeah,
love that.
no, I agree. And to be fair, I think she does notice too, because
That's
so
good.
maybe, how long ago was it? Like 2, 3 weeks ago, she just started her first job. Now, she, like, me and her mom, we didn't be like, you have to go get a job, right? Like, she wanted to do this. But I remember before she had her job interview, she's kind of looking at me. She's like, okay, Dad, like, you have people that work for you, and, like, you're a business guy. Like, what are questions, like, you would ask? Because I want to prepare for my interview. So, like, the fact that she kind of, like, took notice of that, I was kind of like, oh, this is cool. Like, that's a fun moment. You know what I mean? And I
That's
got to
awesome.
sort of teach her on, like, how to, like, interview questions, or I'm sorry, answer interview questions in a creative way. And she's like, I'm told, like, they're not going to ask you about your experience. They know this is your first job. You're bussing tables at, like, kind of a fine dining restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, they're not too cared about your skill set. They want to know a little bit more about your personality and who you are. You know what I mean? Because everything else is teachable, right?
Absolutely.
I had an interview with somebody yesterday that literally that's what I was talking about, is that the quality I look for most is, are you teachable and are you coachable? Because so many things, I don't care if you have natural talent at or not, if you are willing to learn, willing to be taught, golden.
Yep.
Jimmy,
Awesome.
where can people find you? Where is the best place for them to go to look for your music or more information about what you're up to when the release date finally gets published? How can people get connected with you?
It's pretty simple. Jimmy Rock. That's it. There's no like weird spelling to it. There's no like underscores. There's no, you're not putting DJ in front of the name. It's just simply JIMMYROCK. That's how they can find me on social media. That's how they can find my music on Apple Music, YouTube, Spotify, you name it. I do have more bookings. I'll be traveling around the United States a little bit more this year, and I believe in January I'm supposed to go to the Philippines, so I'll be
Whoa.
performing out there. Um, I just released and I don't know when this airs, but I just released a single today. It was
What?
well, I shouldn't say it's well, it is a single. It's a remix. That's what's fun with my job, right? I could put out brand new stuff that like I've made, and then I could like re-release songs with the original artist and sort of reimagine it. So it's a Spanish worship song with an artist called Nico M. And I just
Whoa.
made a dance version of the song. It just came out 11 hours ago. And
That's
Wow.
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Angela just started going to a new church recently, and one of the things that she's told me about that was really impactful is bilingual worship, being really, really neat part of that experience. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got a fun
Absolutely.
story with that. A few years ago, I was performing in Bogota, Colombia. And I was there at a church the night before the show because the show was on a Saturday, but they had a service on like a Friday night. And like I mean, if you go to Mexico or if you're in that region, they might still speak a little bit of English, right? Because they share a border with us. You're going to have some like crossover. But when you get down into like Colombia, they're surrounded by all like Spanish speaking countries. So like they really, unless you have a translator or Google Translate on your phone, like there's no English. But I remember during the worship service, because I'm there with a few other Americans, they started playing some songs, and like we recognized the tune, we recognized
Yes.
the music, and so we started singing along in English, and they're all
Mm.
singing it in Spanish. But in that moment, I feel like God sort of whispered to me. He was just like, "This is a glimpse of heaven."
Yep.
When we get to heaven, I really believe this. I think we will retain our culture, our identity, our language. If you speak German, Dutch, Mandarin, Portuguese, we're going to still speak that way in heaven. Now we'll be able to understand each other, but I feel like that language is still part of like who we are. And I feel like God kind of showed me that, where it's just like we're all worshiping in Him in like every language and every tongue possible. It was such a cool moment for me. Yeah.
that's so
I love
cool.
that. Well, thank you so much, Jimmy, for being here. And thank you all for joining us today. And we hope that you go and be freaking awesome.
Thank you. You guys are freaking awesome.
Ah, thanks, Jimmy.